Rockstars, this is your moment. You've been listening, learning, grinding, and now it's time to go from taking notes to taking action. The Business Development Mastery Accelerator Rockstars class kicks off Tuesday, September 9th, and it was built for listeners just like you. In 6 weeks, I'll coach you through the exact system that I've used for nearly 2 decades, refined through 160 plus expert interviews, and proven inside my $7,500 one-to-one program. You'll walk away with a complete business development engine built to scale and built around you. You'll get 6 live coaching sessions with me, exclusive access to Catalyst GPT, proven templates, outreach scripts, and a CRM that actually works. A private group inside the Catalyst Club, and your own custom certificate that shows you showed up and leveled up. Only 10 seats are available and they will go fast. So if you're ready to turn this podcast into your playbook, go to kellykennedyofficial.com and lock in your seat today. That's kellykennedyofficial.com, and let's build your revenue engine together. I'll catch you on the flip side. Welcome to episode 266 of the Business Development Podcast. And today I'm joined by Damien Benveniste, a machine learning leader and former Meta tech lead who's now helping businesses and entrepreneurs understand and apply AI. In this episode, we break down what AI and machine learning really are, how they've been shaping our world for decades, and where the future is headed for business, innovation, and everyday life. Stick with us. You're not going to want to miss this episode.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 266 of the Business Development Podcast. And today I bring you Damien Benveniste. He is a distinguished leader in machine learning and data science, with a career spanning over a decade and marked by groundbreaking projects across industries from ad tech to healthcare. With a PhD in theoretical physics, Damien seamlessly transitioned into a world of applied machine learning, leveraging his expertise to develop transformative solutions in fields as diverse as online retail, energy valuation, and credit score modeling. His work at leading tech firms like Meta, where he recently served as a machine learning tech lead, highlights his role in scaling complex model optimization processes, showcasing his ability to innovate at the intersection of technology and real-world application. Now stepping into a bold entrepreneurial journey, Damien is harnessing his experience to build tech-focused ventures and share his insights through his acclaimed publication, The AI Edge. Focusing on continuous learning in machine learning system design and ML ops, Damien's work is a beacon for those eager to advance in these fields. As he moves forward, Damien's relentless pursuit of impactful, scalable tech solutions promises to inspire and elevate the next wave of machine learning innovation. Damien, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Wow, that is the best introduction that anybody has ever done of me, even myself. So I need to live up to that now. So thank you, Kelly, for having me. That's great. I'm excited.
I am extremely excited. One, because AI to me is incredibly amazing. And honestly, I have no idea how it works. And two, you're the very first data scientist I've ever had on the show. And dude, I don't even know what a data scientist is, but I'm excited to find out.
I can try to give you a sense if you want. You want to move to that, or you want to we start by something else before?
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, sure. Why don't we start with that? And then I want you to take us back to the beginning and how you ended up on this incredible journey. But yeah, what
Sure.
is a data scientist for everybody listening?
I would not actually describe myself anymore as a data scientist. And it's funny because data science or data scientist has different definition depending on where and when. So when I started my career, somebody that wanted to work in machine learning or somebody that wanted to train machine learning models and build product with machine learning models were data scientists. So it was fashionable at the time to hire PhDs to become a data scientist. With this field being very hot in the 2010s, it was like the job of the 21st century at the time.
Yeah.
Many people tried to transition in title to data science. So many data analysts, many business intelligence analysts, BI people, even some data engineers would take on the name of the title of data scientist. And what I've seen in the US, at the very least, is that people that used to be data scientists back in the 2010s slowly transitioned to being titled machine learning engineers to push the idea that the people that were working with machine learning models were that they were working with machine learning models. And data scientists became this label that could describe anything now. If you're dealing with data from close to far, many companies will give you the title of data scientist, and
Yeah.
it can be very very different things now. People that wanted to really specify the idea that they were machine learning experts slowly started to take on the title of machine learning engineers to make sure that they were distinguishing themselves from people that had other type of skill sets. So
Well,
now I would describe more, I transition titles and I would describe more myself as a machine learning engineer. Although, like you said earlier, now I'm more into the educational part of machine learning and an entrepreneur. So I'm not anymore effectively, actively working as a machine learning engineer, but it's a better description of who I would be as an engineer.
yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, it's just for people that are outside of that field, it's really hard to understand, right? Like you mentioned, people have been working on this for years. Like really in theory, and like that's what I've been learning. I've interviewed a few people on AI, and what they kind of said is, look, like AI has been around forever. Like your, for instance, they gave your spam folder in your email, and they're like, how do you think the spam folder figured out what
Yeah.
spam was? It was AI, but like none of us understood that. We just assumed that there was something in the system filtering things, but like the background or the behind of how old AI is can sometimes be a little bit unbelievable. Like in your experience, you'd mentioned really since the 2010s is where essentially the AI that we're dealing with today came from, the ChatGPTs of the world.
No, I would not say that. Back in the 70s, in computer science department, they were working on AI, which was a very deterministic domain, something where we were trying to formalize intelligence, trying to understand what it means for a computer to be intelligent, to have some cognitive capabilities. At some point, there was a transition in the 80s, the 90s, and it was helped with the similar transition that we saw in statistics department, where the idea was instead of trying to formalize intelligence, we're going to try to extract the statistical patterns from the data of entities that generate intelligence to try to mimic this intelligence with some models that would be able to express those statistical patterns. And that's when machine learning became a more prominent science in as a subset of AI. So it is this science where we are trying to it's a subset of artificial intelligence where we are using data to extract the information instead of trying to guess it, instead of trying to build some kind of models by hand with human intelligence. Instead of
Yeah.
that, we are looking at the data and we are building models that have the flexibility to extract the information as complex as it can be. So came the birth of machine learning that was much more, that has a simpler goal, because what machine learning was good at was to be able to learn the relationship between different variables. So try to understand. So for example, if you think about linear regression, that's the simplest machine learning model that you can build. And the goal of it is very simple. You regress a variable with, and trying to understand the relationship of a variable to another. And there's a lot of this in machine learning where we're just trying to understand by using some input data, some input variables, how it's going to impact another variable. So for example, when we look at the text of some emails, what would be the effect of it when it comes to trying to classify this as a spam or not? When we look at the history of a user on a platform like Meta, like
Yeah.
Facebook, trying to understand the user activities to try to infer what would be the affinity to that user to a specific ad. And this is a way Meta is making, for example, 95% of its revenue by personalizing ads on social media, on feeds, to make sure that users are clicking on them. And the more they are clicking on them, the more they are making money. So they need very accurate models to make sure that we are providing to the users the most adapted ads for them. And this is machine learning. It's very, like the goal of it, there's nothing cognitive about it. There's nothing intelligent.
Yeah.
There's nothing, or at least there's nothing that is easy to describe as being intelligent, but it has always been a subset of AI. And we were fine to describe this as a subset of AI. The people working in machine learning never had a sense of, I never had a sense that I was doing AI. I
Okay.
was building regression models, like classification models, simple models that were used to build software application. There was no there was no sense of cognition, intelligence, reasoning. That was not the point. The point was really to build something that is effective business wise. So most of the big tech companies are using machine learning to make most of their revenue. When you are on the Amazon website, you are recommended objects, items to buy. The more we are recommending you the best items,
Yeah.
the more you're going to buy stuff.
Yeah.
On Netflix, we're recommending the best movies. The more we recommend to you the best movies, the less attrition that there is on the platform. Meta, Google is making 70% of its revenue with ads. It's again machine learning models making that revenue. So most of the revenue of those big tech companies has been generated by machine learning models for decades, maybe too long, but
Yeah.
a long time, long before ChatGPT.
Sure.
And machine, every day before ChatGPT, we use 20 different applications that are ML powered, like Google Map, Google
Yeah.
Search, Netflix, Amazon, anything you're using every day, Snapchat, whatever, those are always ML powered. And ML has been around us for a long time.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you made a pretty clear differentiation, and essentially that machine learning isn't necessarily AI or like a thinking machine. Is that,
Yeah.
or a thinking computer is kind of what you're getting at? It's still pre-programmed, but it's learning from the inputs that we're giving it to recommend things based on if other people like this is what we
Yeah.
should show them. Does that sound, am I getting this
Yeah.
correctly?
And I'm not suggesting that AI is a thinking machine either, right?
Okay.
Okay. I'm not, but it appears to.
Yes.
Okay. But when it comes to machine learning, at least on the applications that we have been doing with those, it's been difficult to perceive a sense of intelligence. You may have used Google Translate, you may have used like those kind of tools that were obviously ML powered, and you could extract from that a sense of intelligence. But I think before ChatGPT, people didn't see a sense, didn't imply that there was some kind of intelligence in those models. So now, in 2022, December 2022, came out ChatGPT in a way that was very public. That was not the first time that we had LLMs. I know that 6 months prior, there was an employee in Google that got fired because he really thought that the language model he was working with was conscious,
Yeah.
I forgot his
I was
name,
going to
but
ask you about that.
so it was not ChatGPT that really discovered that, but I think it was ChatGPT that made that kind of capabilities very public. Even
Yeah.
myself, working in machine learning, I could only experience this type of models through papers. By reading papers, you don't get a sense of how intelligent maybe that kind of machine can be if you are reading a paper. But if suddenly you're in front of a UI with a chatbot and you're chatting with it and you see that thing responding to you in a way that would beat the Turing test very easily, you're suddenly surprised. And there are many people working in the field like me that were very surprised that this kind of things could be. But ChatGPT is the result as well of machine learning. The difference between this and maybe other type of machine learning models is that those machine learning models are specialized in generating text or generating natural language in a similar manner by training on the natural language text that we are generating as humans. So it's specializing into generating text. So a large language model is a classifier in the same way that you classify ads, yes or no, that guy is going to click on it or no. You classify words and you are generating words little by little by using the probability that the model is outputting. You're choosing the word that will be the next to output into the sentence that the LLM is providing to you. And I think it was surprising because the difference is that despite the fact that on the basic aspect of those models, they were very similar to any other models we were using before, at least conceptually. In the application, they were seemingly displaying intelligence in a way that we rarely seen before.
Yes.
And it became suddenly a bit more relevant to talk about AI. Like I personally, I never considered myself to be an AI expert. I considered myself to be ML expert. There's a whole field of AI that is not ML, that is completely separated from ML, and that I'm not pretending to know. But suddenly, those models that were displaying a sense of intelligence, it made sense to suddenly start to talk about AI, like much more than before. So I think AI is not new, but the popularization, the fact that it has been democratized is very new. The fact that you can access AI in a way that was not accessible before. You needed to be an engineer before to be able to access AI, or engineer or researcher. And now you can be anybody.
Yep.
And you can have access to the most powerful AI we ever created.
Yeah, it obviously, if you're in business, if you're in anything, if you're living with access to a computer, it's been the biggest, most massive, monumental shift since probably the invention of the iPhone. Like genuinely that big, I would argue. Even in year 2, we're already that
For
big.
sure.
And I had no idea, dude. Like, I don't know whether I had my head in the sand or what, but I had no idea anything like this even existed. And then suddenly it was like, oh, ChatGPT's here. And at first I was like, oh, whatever. Like, yeah, so people are playing on a computer program. And then I hopped on and started playing on it myself. And I think like anybody who's their first time, I was like, holy cow, like this is going to change everything. And obviously we've had quite a few updates since then. It's now connected to the internet. And it's like, wow, like it's game-changingly unbelievable. And you're absolutely right. Like I could see how people could look at that and be like, are you sure that thing's not conscious? Because it seems pretty damn smart.
Yeah.
So, what's kind of cool is that you have a background in theoretical physics as well.
Yes.
What are your thoughts? Do you think we'll ever get, one of these machines to become conscious? Like, or is that where we're going?
It's I'm very, like I could try to answer, but before answering or try to answer, I would say that I'm very uninterested by these kind of questions. I'm very excited about the technology, things you can build with it. I'm product oriented. I like the technology, and I really, for me, everything is demystified. I'm not thinking about those models as being thinking machines. I am seeing a model that is mimicking the intelligence that we're able to display in natural language, which is great. But the idea to try to project in the future and me trying to infer if we're going to have intelligent robots in the future, sure, why not? But like it to me, it's not really an interesting question. Like it's fantasy. Like I don't see a good sense, a good reason for me to fantasize about what could happen. There's a lot of things that are missing to maybe connect to what we tend to define as being intelligent being. So, from there, I don't have even the knowledge, I believe, to understand what are the research that are done beyond LLMs and on the cognitive aspect to get to something that is intelligent. And I only aware and and knowledgeable about the idea that we have that machine that is mimicking our level of intelligence by just reusing the data that it's seen during its training. And I'm never, as a machine learning person, the guy that was personalizing ads for ads ranking on the Meta feed, Google, Facebook feed. I'm not the kind of person that fantasize about what will happen in the future when it comes to thinking robots. It's never been my thing. I find that not very productive even.
Yeah.
You just end up to be in a debate with people that are on one side or the other of a specific opinion, and you end up to be in a very unproductive debate with no data to back up any claim.
No, that's fair. I just watched way too much Terminator growing up. So it's like, hopefully the longer we are away from a conscious or sentient robot,
For sure.
the better.
It's something that I got scared for a minute when it comes, you get scared when you don't know what's happening.
Sure.
When I remember reading the paper that came out in May 2023, I believe, by OpenAI, that was the paper that was describing GPT-4 or April maybe 2023. And it was describing GPT-4, and one section of the paper was how they actually tested the model for self-replication. And, like that paper specifically, they didn't describe the models, they didn't describe the architecture. So we were not clear about what architecture they were using, what specific machine learning models they were using. So there was a sense of fear because we were at the point where we were testing models for self-replication. Can they, on their own, start to replicate and, like become Skynet, Terminator. So it really induced a sense of fear when I was reading this part of the paper. But then, like as time went and more models came out and it became much more common, we know exactly how those models are built. It's a fear that really is unfounded, that is there if you don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
If you're just in front of a ChatGPT thinking, oh, that could take over the world. But
And my argument would be you actually understand how a large language model works behind the scenes, not just playing with it.
Sure.
And I think if you get scared, imagine what the rest of us get when we just see a machine that's learning, that's answering questions that, frankly, I'm not sure half the people on Earth could answer, right? Like, it is absolutely incredible. And I think from that standpoint, from the outside looking in, from no knowledge, no background in computer science, no even understanding how coding, it looks amazing. It looks unbelievable, and it looks very terrifying for that very reason. Like it's just as terrifying as it is incredible, because you look at it and you're like, look at all this amazing stuff we can do with it. But then also look at all the horrible things that could be done with it too. Like it's like
Mm,
nuclear energy, right? Nuclear energy is
sure,
incredible if you use it right. And it's horrible if you use it wrong or if it gets
sure.
damaged or whatever, right? And I think AI kind of falls in the same thing. It's a great tool in the right hands and maybe a very dangerous one in the wrong hands.
Of course, of course. I remember that. So there's a friend of mine with who I did my PhD, and now he's a mathematician, like a professor.
Yeah.
And he texted me once. He was like, "I'm terrified. Like, what's happening?" You're like, somebody that you may expect, from far away, a tech person or no, a scientific person. You may expect that person maybe to be more connected to that type of technological novelty. And yeah, he was terrified, and the scare, the fear was coming from the lack of understanding, and that makes sense. That makes sense. When it comes to badly using AI, I was talking to somebody that is working in the Air Force, like in the British Air Force,
Yeah.
and he's working in the US. And he was telling me, and I may misquote because it's been a while, but he was telling me that we are now in the fifth generation of fighting jets.
Yes.
And the next generation, the sixth generation, the one that is now in progress to be made, is the generation where data and potentially AI is going to play a much larger role in the way those jets are piloted. So AI data, or the fact to be able to utilize better the data that is available by sensors that could be placed on the jet. So data is going to play a much bigger role in, or potentially AI, in being able to have a fighting technology that may be superior than to the enemy. So AI is going to be part of the arsenal of tools that we can use to fight wars. So that's happening, and
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that was going to be kind of one of my questions, that you see almost every new technology coming out now has an AI aspect of it, right? Whether it be your new smartphone or your new camera or whatever it is, it's like, oh, look at all these touted new AI features, right? I guess one of the questions for me to you is it truly an advancement, or are they just kind of using AI to tout some new features that maybe we've had in the past that were AI anyway and we just didn't even know?
I actually hate that thing. Like I'm using a couple of tools in my day to day, like for my own work, that are software based, and they are useful for my work. And there's a lot of inefficiency in the ways the softwares are implemented, and there are things that I would like to improve. But instead of that, they are focusing on AI features that are useless. And we've seen this wave of AI features or AI companies or AI tools that came out that are useless, that nobody needs. And, companies now are hiring people to build AI product that nobody needs. And it's very annoying, like to see this hype around a real novelty when it comes to a technology, to see this hype that is giving a bad image to the technology itself because of the way it's being marketed.
Yeah.
And we've seen everything is AI powered now, and every time there's something AI powered, there's an AI feature, it's usually annoying. This AI that does that, you usually don't want to use it. I mean, I'm sure there's some exceptions where some features are useful, but I remember when I used Instagram, and Meta trained this Llama model, and now you on the search bar you had access to the Llama model as well as a way to kind of have a Meta like, I mean, a ChatGPT like for Instagram. And that was annoying. Like, I don't want that when I use Instagram. I mean, I use Instagram to lose brain cells. I am not there to have to deal with that talking entity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been annoying to me.
Yeah.
And it's maybe counterintuitive because I'm part of the people that educate the engineers to become good at doing those things. But still, I'm very product oriented, so I feel that it's important to be aware and to be educated about the technology as an engineer. But that doesn't mean that you should apply that technology everywhere. I'm still very excited about what's not, what's in the background, what's has been less publicized. And so, like we have this hype around this technology, but it's what the result we have, the resulting products we have are not all, that great.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree. Specifically with in this world, podcasting, audio processing, you're seeing go heavily, heavily, heavily into AI.
Mm.
And, probably me and you know that world well
Mm-hmm.
and have produced our own shows and everything. And I
Mm-hmm.
still choose to self-produce my own show. I don't let AI do it. I do all my editing on the back end. It's Kelly Kennedy made and Kelly
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy listened to because I want to make sure that it sounds good. Because for instance, if I was to use I'm not going to name the company, but the company we're recording this software on today, and then hit the button for the record and said, I want the audio to be AI analyzed, it comes out sounding really bad. And I don't know whether, I don't know who at their side, the engineer that was like, yep, that's good, move forward with that, because it does not sound good. It sounds so much better to self produce. And like you mentioned, I think there's a lot of things out there that were maybe released too soon or
Yeah.
just trying to capitalize on the moment.
Yeah. I'm using a ton of tools that we are trying to bet on AI, and it's annoying. Like, I'm not going to name it, but I'm using this video recording tool that I use to make my courses, and they are so into AI, and everything is AI. It's like, I don't care. I want you to be able to have a play button that works well. And it's, like sometime, just don't focus on the AI, just focus on the basic things. It's okay.
Yeah. No, I know. I think we'll get back there. Like I said, I think there's people that are just like, it's the moment. Everybody's excited about
Yeah.
it. Let's capitalize on it. I think the part that I get really frustrated with is that specifically there's multiple programs that do the same thing. And then one other thing may be good that I want to keep. Like there's an AI feature I
Mm.
actually like, but then
Mm.
I end up having to buy like 8 programs to do one task that one program should be able to do because
Yeah.
each one tries to do everything, but only does 1 or 2 things great. You know what I mean?
I see completely what you mean. I have a bunch of tools as well like that, but I pay and I don't need most of it.
I know. It's super, super frustrating. Anyways, we got on a long tangent here, and I really
Mhm.
wanted to narrow in on your life. Take me
Mm.
back. How did you end up on this incredible path? You've had an incredible career. You're still doing incredible things. Walk me through it. How did you end up on this journey?
It's funny that you say that because at every step of the way, I felt I was failing. I've been, like laid off 3 times in my career, and I have short-term jobs because of that. And on paper, like at the time, didn't look good. Now I feel very confident with my skills, but at every step of the way, I felt I was like in the wrong place or it didn't work out as expected. But in the end, in the long run, if you look back, things are smoother, like, so they seem maybe, the good things, the positive points accumulates and they start to shine. But that was not the case when it happened. So I did a PhD in theoretical physics. I was specializing so I was in between the applied mathematics department and physics department, specializing in the mathematics of turbulent flows. And I was doing a lot of data analysis. So I was analyzing data that was coming from petabytes databases. I was somebody that was strong in mathematics, strong in computer methods, and that were doing data analysis on a daily basis. For me to move to machine learning, that is a science where you are using computational methods, and from by using data, it was a very obvious switch. Like I always prepared myself actually to go on Wall Street to be a quantitative trader. I ended up to go on the West Coast to follow my wife and my fiance at the time, and I ended up to be in the Silicon Valley. And I was a data scientist. It was an obvious transition from being a theoretical physicist that were used to do data analysis. The mathematical models were very similar. Actually, the mathematical models used in machine learning were extremely simple compared to physics. So for me, it was an extremely simple transition. And the goals were different. I was feeling the same about quantitative trading, where it was very similar to physics on the mathematical aspect and the computational aspect, but the goal was to make money instead of publishing papers. And here with machine learning, I felt I was finding a very similar goal. So I moved from places to places, being a data scientist, and at some point, I switched to being titled a machine learning engineer. Really, every company was for me an opportunity to learn a bit more about how businesses are making money and how machine learning can help with that. It was a great learning experience because when you're an academic person like I was, you have no clue about how money is made and you have no clue how mathematics or mathematical models can help to do that. So that learning was great, and it was a long learning curve for me. And my last real job, my last 9 to 5, was at Meta, which I hated. I hated working there. I really hated the culture. I really hated the um, the the teams, or I didn't like the way we were working there. It was not enjoyable to me. But I was doing some of the most advanced machine learning that there was to do in the world. I was working in the ads ranking. So the team that was generating 95% of the revenue at Meta. So there was a lot of optics on. I mean, there was a lot of eyes on our work. Our models were the ones that if you have a percent improvement, it translates into hundreds of millions of dollars. So
Yeah.
it was so many people with the same title than me trying to really improve on those models, trying to make more money. And then being in that place where people consider to be the best place to work as a tech person, and me hating it, I thought that the only logical transition was to become an entrepreneur because I could not anymore work for somebody else, and started to partner with a couple of people to try to found a startup. It didn't work. I didn't maybe push as much as I could, but at the time I transitioned to be more of a simpler entrepreneur. So, there's I think this new wave of entrepreneurs that are not startup people. So there's usually this dichotomy between startup and non-startup, big tech. But as an entrepreneur, there's also this additional option, which is to choose a simpler, smaller, less scalable option
Yeah.
where I'm trying to monetize my skills on the education side, on the consultancy, like being consultant, these kind of things, which is not scalable, but which allows to have a very enjoyable life without targeting billions of valuation when it comes to the company that you are building. And that's the type of entrepreneurship that I'm currently pursuing, which is fine. I'm still itching for potentially build a scalable product that I could sell within a startup entity. But right now, I'm having a lot of fun. Growing as an engineer, helping people grow as engineers, and trying to really educate people. For me, it's as well an amazing learning experience because having to be on top of everything to upskill people require for me to learn about everything 10 times faster than anybody else. And this is something that I really enjoy. I became what many people would describe as a unicorn because I had to, for being an educator, I had to be the guy that knows everything well to educate other people. And I love this, this feeling of being on top of things, and at the same time having this knowledge makes me realize that there's so many things I still need to learn to be to continue in this path of being an educator. So that's for the moment I really love it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you get a lot of passion and enjoyment from teaching? I know that for me, that really, I didn't realize how much I was born to be a teacher until I started doing teaching and coaching on business development. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I was meant to do the whole time. I had no idea how much enjoyment would come from it. But do you feel the same way about your teaching and coaching?
I do love teaching. I've been teaching for a long time, actually. I was doing my PhD, I taught the whole time. I was a TA. And I actually taught as well when I was in France and I was teaching. I had for half a year, I taught at the high school level.
Oh wow.
And I also taught here a course at a local university at the master level for data science. So I had a lot of opportunities to teach as an expert in the field and somebody that needed to do it for, when you're a PhD student, I was a theoretical physicist. I mean, on the theoretical side, there's not a lot of fundings to fund PhD programs. I mean, on the theoretical side, there's not as much funding. So people tend to be TAs to pay for this kind of program. So that's what I did, and I learned to become good at it, and now I really enjoy it. And I found, it's not a passion as much as I spent years thinking about it to become better at it, and it's not a passion as much as I I've understood some of the logic on how to teach to make it better for people. And I kind of enjoy getting better myself at that. I kind of enjoy using those tricks that I've learned. It's like it's a lot more about doing what I'm good at than doing something that I'm passionate about
Yeah.
and pursuing that what I'm good at. So I'm good on the technical side on what I'm teaching, and I'm good at teaching because I've been doing it for years. And so merging the two became much more of a way to express myself on something I'm good at.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things when I was kind of digging into you was all the courses that you actually have, and you have quite a few of them. Walk me through, what was that process like in
Mm.
creating these courses? I imagine that must have had its moments.
The logic is simple. As somebody that was in this entrepreneur mindset, trying to monetize. So, like I have a mortgage to pay, I have two kids, and I had to make money. So I was really convinced I didn't want to work for somebody else. And I didn't want to go back to work for somebody else. So I had to find ways to make money. And when you have this need, you find so many ways or you explore so many ways to monetize your skills. And it's something that when you're an employee, you don't understand very well. You don't understand what it means to try to find ways to make money. I could make money by being by being a speaker. I could make money by being a consultant. I could make money by being a coach or by being a mentor, like helping for interviews. And I ended up to run a newsletter. I got actually some investment. An investor was helping me to get through the first 6 months to make sure I could get the newsletter running and get enough subscribers to monetize the newsletter. And I realized that if I were to continue this way, I would have difficulty to pay my mortgage. So I started to try to find additional ways to make money. And one thing that came naturally was, let's try to do some courses. There's Udemy, so I tried to put a course on Udemy, and I did a course on LangChain, if you're familiar with it, which is a orchestrator framework for LLM pipelines. And then I did another course on introduction to transformers or large language model with transformers. And then I did another course on machine learning fundamentals. And so I moved from courses, things that you can find for cheap online, to cohort based courses, so boot camps, where I was having this live interaction with people and I was providing projects for people to solve. And I really wanted to bring people, on at the level of the job itself. I wanted to give them a sense of the difficulty of the job itself. So it was important for me to give them projects that were hard and similar to the ones we find on the job. So, and I the last bootcamp I did, I thought was a bootcamp on large language models to learn to train, fine tune, and deploy large language models. And I'm preparing another bootcamp on introduction to data science and machine learning, another bootcamp also on orchestrator pipe frameworks for, and also agents for to build LLM applications. And so there's a couple of there's tens of bootcamps that I'm thinking about building. I realize that there's a demand for this. I have the skill to make something of good quality. So I felt it was a good fit for me to try to provide this service, something that I can do well and people are happy to receive. So I found it's a good fit so far. And like I said, I've been very freed in my entrepreneurial journey. So this is true now. It may not be true 6 months from now. So.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair, man. It's changing so quickly. You can't expect anybody to commit to anything longer than about 6 months at a time.
For sure, for sure.
Do you consult with like large organizations who might want to create their own internal large language models?
So I had a couple of consulting gigs, but every time the deal was, you need me for a short amount of time every week. That's fine, but I didn't want to derail my current business model to move towards something that is more consultant based. And I didn't want also to be a contractor. I didn't want to be the technical guy that is actually doing the thing. I wanted to be potentially working on the strategic aspect, like how, maybe helping to build the teams, maybe to lead the teams, but not to actually implement things myself, because I don't want to be in that employee situation that I tried to flee a few years ago.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You can definitely end up trapped right back in it, even as a consultant. Yeah.
And there was a point where I was I was trying to become more of a consultant, and I ended up to find myself doing interviews to be hired as a consultant all week long, and I hated that. I hated that idea that I was trying to flee I was trying to flee renting my time to other people. And then I ended up to spend my time in interviews to see if people were going to hire me, and it didn't really make sense. So I can do it if there's a good fit. But right now I'm trying to make sure that it's not taking too much of my time.
Yeah. Well, and that was going to be one of my questions, that ultimately you've actually created quite a bit of a personal brand around yourself. And I wanted to chat about that because 2024, so many people have chatted about the power of personal branding. And so every once in a while, when I have someone like you on my show who has an incredible LinkedIn following, I have to ask, talk to me about that. How did you go from, AI expert to building such an incredible personal brand?
Well, it's relative, right? You could say it's big, but I'm still comparing myself to bigger people. And well, for me, it became, I was working at Meta, and I was so bored at Meta. I was not doing what I enjoyed. So I felt I was talking more about machine learning on social media than I was at Meta itself. So I ended up to, I never been a social media person. I never was good at it. I never liked it. So I remember seeing a couple of people on LinkedIn advising how to write on LinkedIn and on social media. And I didn't even understand the point at the time. Why would you do that? Why would you waste your time doing this? And I started to let myself go and write on LinkedIn, giving advice about machine learning and trying to, opinionated advice. And I was at the time a meta engineer, which had its own halo of fame, and people were looking at me as being a representative of Meta. I was talking for myself, but people were looking at me as being somebody that achieved something in the career because he was there, which was fake because it's just, I just passed the interviews and I was there. That's it. But for some reason, there was such a shiny aspect to being an engineer there. At the time, it was more true than now, I believe. And every time I was talking on social media, people were very, in an opinionated manner, people were agreeing with me or disagreeing strongly with me because I was a representative of Meta,
Sure.
a company that had, many people didn't like.
Sure. Yeah.
Everything I was saying was things that were meant to be debated and fought. And so I started to get this following on social media because people were, I had this image of the Facebook engineer and fine, I did that for a couple of months. I grew quite a bit and then I stopped because I tried to build a startup. And I was focused on that, 80 hours a week and 80 hours a week. I didn't want to waste my time on social media. It didn't make sense for my business model to spend my time on social media. Really, I was on social media prior to that because I didn't like my job. And that was a way for me to talk about something I liked. And I was talking specifically about machine learning and,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then, when I realized that the startup I was trying to build was not going to work, I needed to pay my mortgage, find a way to pay my bills. And I thought that trying to continue my social media adventure and trying to monetize this influence that I was having on some people could be a good way for me to make a living without having to rely on renting my time to an employer. So I continued with this business model. I met a few other influencers. It's funny because we tend to gather together. I mean, we tend to, to meet each other, and we tend to be colleagues
Yeah.
of the same work. Even then, we sometimes we don't even talk. We never meet, but it feels like some of those guys are my colleagues. But I met a few of those people, and from there, we tried to find different ways to partner and to try to find a way to make a living out of being experts that could present ourselves, could build an image on social media. So social media for us is really a marketing channel. It's also something that we enjoy doing. We enjoy being able to talk about the craft as well as being able to use it as a way to showcase ourselves, display ourselves as experts. So, that has been the story about how social media became part of my business model.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's not the end of it. It's just really a marketing channel for all of us. And we're trying to find additional ways to monetize this. And there are many different ways to try to do it.
Yeah. Well, you've done an incredible job. And I just want to say that you've done an absolutely incredible job. And, I know I have a lot of listeners right now who are maybe trying to build their own brands. They just launched their own company and they're trying to do this stuff, but they're not really sure how. What advice would you give them to build their own personal brands on LinkedIn?
I'm not sure. I've seen people teaching other people with less followers than me, teaching how to build their own brand on social media. And I was very surprised on how convinced or how educated they seemed to be. Even then, they did it less good than me. And I had this feeling like I had no clue how to do it. Something that I have this feeling I have no clue on how to do it, but something that I tried to hold on to is stay true to myself, try to keep my own voice. And something that I believe is true is that on social media, in my specific niche, there are very, very few people that can compete with me.
Yeah.
Because I have my own style, I have my own way to talk, my own way to write, on social media, present myself. And also I have an expertise that is difficult to match. And so I'm able to talk in my own way. I'm able to I have this expertise that allows me to have a very different image. I mean, a very specific image that is difficult to match on the expertise side. And also I'm specializing in trying to take something that is complex, like anything you find in machine learning, and try to present it in a simple manner on social media. The idea of social media is like, especially on LinkedIn, you have 3,000 characters to present a subject, and it has to be entertaining. It has to be educative. And I use, like for me, because social media has been so much part of my business model, that I've learned to condense information in a way that is entertaining, that is educative, that is expert. I'm presenting something that need an expertise to be presented, but also that seem demystified and simpler because of the way I'm trying to present it. The advice, it's hard. It's, I see, like I'm having difficulties now, like growing. So I'm, it's not like I know exactly how to do it, but the advice or at least the advice that I'm following myself is that I'm trying to have my own voice, and I'm trying to be different than other people. That means that when you see other people, educating other people on social media to teach them how to gain a following, I'm very comfortable with the idea that I do anything but what they're advising, because I am anything that would be a pattern that everybody would follow would end up to be something that is not unique. So I think in social media, it's important to keep your own unique voice, to keep your own thing that is making you special in the eyes of the followers.
Yeah. No, it is. It's very interesting. I've talked with quite a few people with massive followings. Liz Ryan is one of them. Lou Adler's another. And it seems to be, you're absolutely right. It seems to be the advice is speak from your heart, be your own person, be unique, be individual, be honest, be truthful.
Mhm.
You will build a personal brand. And that really does seem to be like the advice from everyone that I've talked to, including yourself.
It has worked for me, and I've seen people being very bland or being very, in the way they were writing on social media, being very boring, so following the tricks, and it doesn't work. I mean, the more unique you are, the more people want to hear about you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Damien, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you for coming on today and teaching us all about AI and machine learning. Honestly, dude, like haven't had anybody like you. You are one of a kind, my friend. So
Well,
thank
thank you for that. It was, I love talking about machine learning. Like I said, I'm an educator, so the opportunity for me to be able to have these kind of conversations is really fun. So, if you need me again, I'm happy to come back, and yeah, as much as you want.
Well, I'm sure as time goes on and more, I'll have more questions, no question. And I'll be like, okay, I got to bring him back. I need my expert.
For sure, for
But
sure.
before we do that, though, before we close out today, I know there's a lot of business owners listening who are
Mhm.
struggling with machine learning. They may need help. They may need a machine learning consultant. Can you please go over all of the services that you offer and how people get a hold of you?
If you're asking me, the services I offer on the consulting aspect, on the consulting side, I can help build a team. I can help build a strategy around what maybe is needed. I can help maybe about designing product that could be ML powered. I can help maybe into guiding teams, leading teams. I can help about how to get them started. But again, I'm trying to limit the time I would spend on doing that. Although those services I don't close them, I don't make them unavailable. I'm open to the conversation. I'm trying to not advertise those services too much, because it's not something that I want people to. I don't want to find 20 different emails about people wanting me to be a consultant on some ML product, because I won't have the time.
Sure.
But I love to have the conversation, and if there's a good fit, if I find people that need my help and I love what they're doing, I think I would be willing to really carve time to actually work on that, because that can be for even my own growth. Being to keep working on products that users would use is something that I enjoy, and it would help me also continue to be connected to the business aspect of machine learning. So that could be something that I would be quite tempted to do on a limited basis.
Amazing. Okay. Can you specify maybe what types of passion projects those might be? What are you passionate about? That way maybe we can really narrow down who reaches out.
I love to be able to help on LLM projects. I love to be able to help on LLM pipelines, which is very different. People are confusing the two. So orchestration around LLM pipelines, building agentic workflows. This is something that I enjoy. This is something that I'm pretty good at, and it is something that I also would love to have a bit more product experience, building an actual product that people, like actual users, would use. Because things are moving so fast, it is easy to be lost on the theoretical aspect of things and to forget about the users. And I always want to be able to learn things and educate things in a way that are product oriented and not theoretically biased.
Okay. Amazing. And just before we wrap it up, bring us in quickly to the AI Edge and how people sign up.
Well, it's the URL is thaiedge.io. But to get to the newsletter, you will need to add the newsletter.thaiedge.io. The AI Edge URL will direct you toward my bootcamp courses, which may not be for everybody. So it's very much for engineers, and I'm targeting those people. The newsletter itself might be more friendly to non-technical people, although I'm not making things easy. I'm not the kind of guy that you go to if you want to see hype and prompt engineering. I'm not that kind of guy. I will make things difficult. I will try to make it look easy, but I will dig into the details. And I'm targeting people that want to be on the engineering side, or want to understand the engineering side, want to understand the in and out, the details. So that would be my focus. So newsletter.thaiedge.io would be for the people that are ready to be active in their learning.
Amazing. And for those of you listening, it will be in the show notes for this episode. So if you're wondering where to find it, I will make it very easy. It'll be in the show notes on this episode, wherever you guys listen. And yeah, if you want the technical deep dive into machine learning, this is where you find it. Damien, it has been an absolute honor chatting with you. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, it was a pleasure. So thank you for inviting me.
Until next time, this has been episode 266 of the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey, rock stars. If you've been on the entrepreneurship journey for a while, you know this feeling. In all the interviews, in all the coaching calls, one truth kept coming up over and over again. Leadership is lonely. Business development is lonely. And entrepreneurship is lonely. You can't just talk to anyone about it. That's why I created the Catalyst Club, a private, values-driven community where you can speak the truth, be your authentic self, and connect with people who understand what you're going through and can actually help. We made it private so you feel safe. We made it affordable so no one gets left out. And we built it on values that matter, like showing up, sharing knowledge, and choosing growth over ego. Inside, you'll find coffee with rock stars for real talk and connection, unplugged Q&A for live coaching and clarity, and catalyst sessions with world-class experts who light a fire under your next move. We're building the most supportive business community on the internet, and we want you to help us do it. Join us today at kellykennedyofficial.com. We're just getting started.